LA is upsizing. Being the world's biggest movie town is not enough. The City of Angels has spent the last 9 years becoming the home of electronic entertainment by being home to E3. E3 2003 was the biggest yet. From the big guys jumping out of Black Hawks to the big names pushing their new titles. Bigger and maybe better, with 1,350 products going on show for the first time. Hardware was so last year. In 2003, software was king. But it was also the year of the sequel. And a year in which Hollywood came to Gainesville like never before. Welcome to the Edge E3 experience. From E303, we'll be bringing you the games of the show, the titles that got our attention and deserve all of yours. Going to the movies E3 style, from the Terminator to the Matrix. And getting a move on, E3 gets mobile and mobile gets heated. Sony is #1 in the home console market, but just in case you missed that fact, the Japanese giant spent most of E3 rubbing it in. It started with its PowerPoint media presentation.
So, what are the next steps?
And carried on with its massive $1 million stand. The big announcement was also a big surprise. Ken Kutaragi, Sony's president and father of PlayStation, is about to become a father again. He claims the PlayStation Portable will be
the Walkman of the 21st century.
At the moment, there's nothing to see but this disc. But the announcement alone knocked back Nintendo's share price. All the same, Portable is new ground for Sony, so it will be the one with the catching up to do. And speaking of catching up, these new headsets for online gaming look quite a lot like Microsoft's Xbox Live system. But Sony was unashamedly bigger, from revealing an exclusive deal on 9 new EA titles to calling on a little help from Tiger Woods.
This is live. Tiger hit this shot.
So what about the games? Without doubt, the most original was iToy. It had people lining up to wave their limbs about. Jak 2 Renegade kept its stand busy.
Word is you're out to join the fight for the city.
Naughty Dog's follow-up to Jak and Daxter is expected out later this year.
Excuse me, sir. Don't you mean surrender or die?
Rise to Honor comes from Sony's own studios in the US. Its main selling point will be Jet Li, who was extensively motion captured for the game.
Let's get this mission done and get the hell out of here.
Siphon Filter, the Amiga strain, will be online with 4-player cooperative play.
Anybody's race, ladies and gentlemen.
And of course, there was Gran Turismo 4. Bigger, louder, lusher, and online. There were more than 1,300 new titles at E3 this year. We've sifted out what we think are the top 5 products at E3 2003. At number 5, a game that will cure you of the idea that RPGs are all hit points and hobbits. Sudeki from Climax takes the tried and tested RPG format and pumps it full of steroids. This game isn't standard sword and sorcery fare.
Sudeki's story is about 2 worlds, the light world and the dark world, which have been locked in a war for ages. Now you play as 4 heroes from the light world. As you play the game more and more, you find out that you, the people of light world, are the bad guys. And you are stealing the light from the dark world. and the oppressing them. So it's a classic story of it isn't always the beautiful that's good automatically. Sudeki gameplay is really, really unique. We've got really two levels of gameplay. We've got real-time gameplay, where everything you do happens in real time, and then whenever you open a menu, the game slows down to this cool bullet time. So you don't pause the game when you're choosing to use items, use spells and skills. Instead,
Turning up its nose at turn-based combat has helped create faster and more immersive battles, better suited to console gaming.
I mean, Microsoft said at the outset what they wanted to do was Final Fantasy real time, and they look pretty much to have achieved it to me, which is great.
At number 4 in our chart comes a gaming gadget which has its eye on you. The USB webcam iToy is an inventive peripheral for the PS2. The iToy technology is a result of a research project carried out by Sony's American division.
I think iToy is great. I mean, it really shows the innovation of where this industry is going in the future. The fact that it's only $40 in the U.S. is really cheap, and I think the games are fun. I mean, I played like a punching game. We sort of like punch a guy, and it's. I think it's great. I mean, it's one of those things that I think might be a little gimmicky. I mean, I don't think you'll be playing it for years and years, but for $40, I mean, if you can have a couple weekends of fun with your friends, I think it's it's a great toy. Third-party developers are yet to start creating games for Sony's iToy, but the unit is packaged with 12 titles.
There's a lot of variety. There's a kung fu fighting game. There's a window washing game. There's a rhythmic game. But as far as future titles, this does have a lot of long-term potential.
The downside is it may do as much for your credibility as karaoke. But if sweating doesn't sell it for you, Sony is suggesting there are a couple of other applications for the iToy technology, including video conferencing and virtual pets. Hollywood, Los Angeles, California. Yet another red carpet in Tinseltown, but this is not a celebration of the movies. It's E3 week. Atari are the hosts, and this is the launch of Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, the video game.
This is Terminator, man. The great thing about video games now is they've become an extension of the storytelling experience.
You're into the movies, you're into games, you're into comic books. Yeah. That's the same mind. So I'm a game lover. I'm excited about it.
This is the future, my friend. This is where it's going.
It's down.
The Terminator is proof that movies and games are now integrated like never before. And Hollywood is all too happy to embrace a $25 billion game industry to expand its franchises.
I think that the video game adds a lot to the mythology of the Terminator. Because now you can not only just watch the movie, but you actually can, participate.
If you play the game, it makes you more interested in seeing the movie. And if you see the movie, it makes the game a much richer experience to play.
These might be new ideas to some of Hollywood's A-list, but at E3 2003, the Terminator game was just the beginning.
What is thy bidding, my master?
Star Wars, James Bond, Lord of the Rings, and Spy Kids, to name a few.
But I need to save Carmen. I like being in the video games, I like being toys, I like being in the movies. It's all fun.
What's great about the video game is I can't kill Daryl in real life, but in the video game, I can.
There was also the resurrection of old classics like Tron, The Italian Job, and The Seventh Samurai. Games and movies have been feeding off each other for years with mixed results. The change now is in the quality of the licensed games.
Regarding games and movies, I mean, we've always had kind of a bumpy relationship with Hollywood. We had that whole Sillywood merging that was supposed to happen like 5 or 10 years ago. And I mean, now we're at the point where some cool stuff's starting to happen.
Now what's happening is there's real collaboration between Hollywood and the game industry. So it used to be that game makers would just get a movie license and all they could do is really just put the game in the movie name on a box of just some average game. But now, I mean, you're having directors like the Wachowski brothers with The Matrix or Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings actually say, we want to partner with these game companies and actually create incredible experiences that sort of add to the fiction of our movies.
Damn, not who I was hoping for.
Of all the film-to-game experiences on show at E3, none could match the hype of Enter the Matrix. And no one has done integration like the Wachowski brothers.
The Wachowskis had a piece of story to tell that they didn't really have time for in a 2-hour movie, where they would have told it if they had a 3-hour movie, and we get to do it in the video game.
They wanted to make the video game directly related to the movie. Enter the Matrix is written by the boys, directed by the boys, cut by the boys, so they're actually directly involved in the making of the video game, which was their idea from the beginning, which has never been done before.
That meant that all the same equipment was used, the same film stock, with the same actors, all the same crew. There were hundreds of people on this set, and they're working on a video game. It's going to raise the bar for what people understand to be a fight game in the same way that the Matrix film raised the bar in terms of what people saw as a fight sequence.
Enter the Matrix is already a million-unit seller. But what are the consequences of marrying celluloid with polygons?
I hope we don't get to a point where studios go, you know what, let's not make that great script because it doesn't make for a good game. My feeling is if there's a great script, they're so hard to find anyway that every studio in town would chase after it anyway, and then somebody would figure out how to make a good video game.
I'll be back.
If the game is engaging and challenging and compelling based on its gameplay, based on that feeling you have when you're playing it, that you're really in the zone and the clock goes by and you don't even notice, it doesn't matter what movie's attached to it. So movies are just one part of the equation in a good gameplay experience.
When you have companies spending the tens to $30 million on these licenses and then actually taking the time to create a good game, it's something that's going to mean more mass market for the people out there, because you know, there's people out there that like the Matrix but never played a video game. They try the Matrix game, they like it. It's not just a total piece of crap like a lot of the old games were. And then it opens up a new person to come into this industry.
As E3 commits to LA until 2012, it seems that video games based on movies have finally come of age. The phrase all license and no gameplay no longer applies, and a host of games in this genre can now claim to provide high-quality game experiences in their own right. E3 2003, the video game industry changed.
For many years.
There was no doubt about what was Nintendo's killer app at this year's E3.
Please welcome Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto.
It was 5'7" of gaming god. But most people saw Miyamoto-san's accessibility as a sign that Nintendo feels things aren't going well.
With Mr. Iwata, who's the new president of Nintendo, and there's no question that I think Nintendo understands that they've had trouble, and I think there was a mea culpa there.
Even the announcement of Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes, didn't set the crowd alight.
Thank you, Snake.
But the cash-rich corporation is talking itself up.
Nintendo has never been more focused, never more determined, never more willing to take risks, and we will not retreat. Make no mistake, we are staying right in the middle of the home console battle.
And it says it's already got the GameCube successor in development. But for the current Cube, Nintendo's biggest announcement was a Miyamoto dream.
I'm a really big Pac-Man fan. And actually, I went and I made a Pac-Man game for GameCube.
The new Pac-Man will make the most of the connectivity between the GameCube and GBA. 3 GBA players can be Ghosts, and the GameCube player will be Pac-Man.
Ever since I first had the idea for GameCube, I thought it'd be really fun if people could play Pac-Man together. One on the TV and one on the Game Boy Advance.
Other games of note weren't all first-party work. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg was one example. This effort from Sega is from Sonic creator Yuji Naka. The first-party titles getting the most comment included Mario Kart Double Dash, but there's disappointment that it won't be online. Pikmin 2 with its 2-player mode is arguably what the first Pikmin should have been. And finally, F-Zero GX is the latest in the series that started on the Super Nintendo. It's expected in the UK in October.
Hi, I'm John Gaddiosi, the Hollywood Reporter, and I was an E3 judge this year. The following is my video diary. They often say that E3 starts on Wednesday, but anyone who is in the industry knows that Monday morning is when we start. Monday night we had the Xbox party, which was extremely underwhelming. The biggest games that Microsoft showed were the Halo 2, which was the first playable demo ever. But Halo 2 is another one of those games that looks amazing, but yet again we're going to have to wait. They're saying now it's not going to ship until fall 2004. Up bright and early the next day, non-stop press conferences on Tuesday. Starting off with Sony. They really know what they're doing, and Sony has the lead, and I don't see any reason for them not to give up that lead. Then we moved on to Nintendo, which had a pretty bad press conference. Actually, it was very underwhelming. It kind of seemed like they were trying to convince people that they weren't going to get out of the business, which everyone keeps saying that they are, or at least they should. Following that was N-Gage, which by far was the worst, most ludicrous waste of time in terms of E3. Nokia has no idea what they're doing. And it's very obvious for trying to sit through that press conference that they're just clueless. Here we are at E3 day 1, 10:30 a.m. and already done a lot of walking. This show, just like every show, is very loud and very noisy and seemingly endless. Usually by noon, every game starts to look the same. Fortunately this year, most game companies have started showing us stuff early, so it's not as bad. Gran Turismo 4, Sony held 2 press conferences. The only bad news is that the game's not going to ship this year. The good news is the game is amazing. It blows away Gran Turismo 3, and it blows away anything else on the show floor in terms of racing. Now entering day 2, and yesterday it was non-stop from 9 a.m. until 12 a.m. Start off the day by going over and seeing one of the best games of the show that I've seen so far, and that's Half-Life 2. Amazing graphics, lifelike characters, great animation, and looks like a whole new way to do first-person shooting. Tonight we'll have dinner with Dolby and then the big Sony party. So I will catch up with you later. Here we are, last day of the show, thank God. Today we're going to catch up on all the appointments we've missed during the last couple of days and also see the last remaining games. To me, E3 means a solid week of appointments, lots of walking, lots of parties, and no sleep whatsoever. And usually it means the week after I'm going to be sick.
At third place in our E3 top 5, it's the return of every Xbox owner's favorite cyborg. The Master Chief's back in Halo 2.
I won't.
Special screenings of a gameplay demo and new movies drew huge crowds and a long queue, desperate to catch a glimpse of the ultimate console FPS.
I'm waiting for it extremely quick. I want it bad. I want it so bad right now. It was definitely the only title worth owning on the Xbox at launch. I'm really excited to see what they do with the sequel.
It's been over a year since the Halo 2 teaser movie appeared, and since then, hard facts about the sequel have been thin on the ground.
Halo 2 picks up almost right where Halo 1 leaves off. I think a lot of our fans know that the Covenant have reached Earth and are starting to destroy it, and it's Master Chief's opportunity to go in and liberally kick some Covenant ass.
The prospect of a new multiplayer experience in Halo 2 is what most gamers are looking forward to. That plus the online aspects.
Halo 2 will be on Xbox Live, and we think Xbox Live is really cool, and we plan on doing a lot of stuff with it.
As well as supporting Xbox Live, it was the Master Chief's new skills which got the biggest reaction at the press conference demo. He's now able to use weapons John Woo style.
In the case of dual weapons, imagine using a plasma pistol in one hand and a submachine gun in the other. Well, you'll make that choice because you might want to take out a Jackal shield with a plasma pistol and then finish him off with a submachine gun. But that whole time I can't use grenades. So once again, I have to keep actively making choices in the way I play the game.
They say the best things come to those who wait, but Halo 2 has already slipped twice from its release schedule. Let's hope rumors of it slipping again are unfounded. At an E3 that showcased more sequels than ever before, our number 2 title is the latest installment of the original stealth actioner. Hideo Kojima's given us a new kind of Metal Gear Solid. The claustrophobic interior locations of Shadow Moses Island and the Big Shell are replaced with a lush jungle. This is Solid Snake meets John Rambo. Unfortunately, no one could get their hands on the game.
It's only on video, so we don't actually get to play the game. So that's always the Metal Gear Solid game, just sort of shrouded in secrecy. And what we've seen looks great, but I don't really know how it's actually going to play.
Konami have released information about new gameplay features, though. Snake's gonna have to survive on food he can catch, hence the subtitle, Snake Eater.
That's got to be the dodgiest name at the show, hasn't it? Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
And there's new dangers provided by the jungle environment. An entirely new engine has been designed for the game. The MGS2 engine wasn't up to the job. It was designed for sneaking around on man-made surfaces and pressing up against flat walls. A jungle environment is much more random, so the new engine will take that into account. Rumours at E3 also suggest that Metal Gear Online is in development, and this new engine would give greater flexibility to explore that aspect. Our number 2 game for E303 will be released in 2004. PC gaming may not take up the same spectacular stand space as the consoles, but E3 2003 saw PCs with as strong a lineup as any. The big guns were Halo and Half-Life 2, but there were others which deserve not to be ignored. 21 years after Tron blazed its way onto the silver screen, Monolith is bringing it to the PC screen. The game will be set 20 years after the events in the movie.
We took a lot of iconic elements from the movie, the disc, the light cycles. You'll get a chance to see tanks and, of course, the cool circuit suits that people wear.
Eyes on the prey.
Away from most of the public, LucasArts was showing off a Star Wars Galaxies that's tantalizingly close to completion.
We've got, full beta with full servers. We're actually starting to get the economy going and seeing, what the last 3 years of development is actually culminating into. It's a very, very exciting time.
And the Star Wars Galaxy isn't the only universe fighting for gamers' attention. Set in a parallel universe 500 years after the events of EverQuest, EverQuest 2 will take players back to the world of Norath, only this time with a radically overhauled game engine. Not to be numerically outdone, NCSoft are bringing out Lineage 2. But this title's a prequel to the world's most popular online game. Lineage 2 is set 150 years before the original. Ubisoft's impressive-looking Far Cry will showcase the latest AI and physics technologies from German developers Studio Crytek's. And Half-Life 2's engine will be powering the blood-sucking in Activision's Vampire: The Masquerade Bloodlines.
Don't keep me waiting. I can only amuse myself for so long.
At this year's E3, the focus was on mobile gaming like never before. And the company driving that the hardest was N-Gage creator Nokia. You could almost taste its first-timer enthusiasm at its E3 press event.
Released from the single-player cocoon into multiplayer games.
What the audience really wanted to hear was how much this game deck, phone and MP3 player would cost. With the games costing $30 to $40 on top, the $299 price tag was more than many were expecting.
As a standalone $299 price point for the hardcore and active gamer, we think it's right. This isn't for Susie's 6-year-old, it's not for the casual masses, and it's not a toy. This is a sophisticated gaming machine.
But there's also the problem of competition. The N-Gage will be released worldwide in October this year, which at least gives it a head start on Sony's plans for its PlayStation Portable. The PSP won't be out till late 2004, but it will be a powerful rival. Its hardware will produce Dreamcast quality graphics.
To fit PSP's small body, we created a new and small optical disc. It has a capacity of 1.8 gigabyte, 3 times larger than CD-ROM.
We are planning for the display to be a TFT LCD monitor. We haven't yet decided on the size.
Until the PSP is born, Nokia's strongest rivals are the GBA and GBA SP. Nintendo says it's not especially worried.
Nokia's product is definitely being looked at, but we think that it's more convenient to have separate products for your telephone and games console.
But like everyone in this battle, Nokia is putting on a brave face.
We're creating a new category, and products like PSP are really playing, into an existing market with the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Advance SP, and we're trying to create an entirely new category in an online multiplayer mobile connected device that really is just connecting people everywhere.
Whatever the competitors say about hardware, these mobile gaming machines will sell on the strength of their games. The N-Gage has titles like
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater
and John Romero's Red Faction.
Very powerful, and it's got great graphics, real nice resolution, color and everything.
Nintendo's show of handheld titles this year included Final Fantasy Tactics, Boktai: The Sun Is in Your Hand, and Advance Wars 2. While the mobile war is being waged, gamers are the only guaranteed winners. The Microsoft press conference was corporate, aggressive, and had a gung-ho feel to it.
Yeah, I noticed you mixed in some audio from last year's show.
Well, just the promises. Just the promises, baby.
Last year's promises were about Xbox Live, and Microsoft claims it's delivered. With a new online sports league it's calling XSN Sports.
Work your way into the XSN Sports Hall of Fame.
And now the Xbox will be karaoke for your lounge with the Xbox Music Mixer. But even the audience members who were on the payroll saved most of their whooping for the games. And the biggest of those was Halo 2. Next to that, Microsoft seemed most pleased with an exclusive announcement from LucasArts. Republic Commando is expected in mid-2004. On a lighter note, Grabbed by the Ghoulies is the first Xbox exclusive game from Microsoft acquisition Rare. It's a beat-em-up adventure game which should be released in late 2003. Project Gotham Racing 2 is promising more of the same, only better. More kudos points for close-to-the-edge driving, more cars and more exotic locations. And then there's 13. This Ubisoft title isn't an Xbox exclusive, but the console's power should make the most of its cel-shaded cartoon styling. At this E3, we saw 13 almost complete and due for release later this year. Even E3 can't please all of the people all of the time. This may be the biggest gaming show on Earth, but some attendees felt let down by a few of the main performers.
I didn't expect Nintendo stand to be so disappointing. Generally their track record is almost every E3. They've done something groundbreaking or something shocking.
I really, really hope Nintendo doesn't go the way of Sega, but it's not looking good. And I don't know how they could do a press conference where they've got Shigeru Miyamoto, Will Wright, and still remain utterly unconvincing.
Very few people had complaints about any of the software on show, but for some, what they couldn't see was what bugged them the most.
There are several games that just, they aren't on the floor, and it's always disappointing to kind of hear all the hype, and then you really want to get your hands on them. The Lucas stuff, they're always behind closed doors, and you know, you always want to see like the new Sam & Max.
Why won't you just die?
It's very hard to see those kind of games unless you know somebody there, so that's always a little disappointing.
This is so degrading.
I'd have to say the biggest disappointment for me this year is not being able to get my hands on and actually play Doom 3. I'm tired of being teased with videos. I want to get my hands on the damn thing. Hook me up.
Time for a little positivity. Let's leave our disappointments behind and show you some of the titles we loved but didn't quite make it into our top 5. Gran Turismo 4 will be back on the PS2 and online when it's released later this year. It divided those who watched and played it about how significantly different it looks from GT3, but those who love it say it will be driving perfection. The Prince of Persia series set the games world alight in the 90s. Ubisoft's latest version, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, looks delicious and is already getting very positive previews. Armed and Dangerous is an Xbox and PC title from LucasArts, which claims it's based on a true story. But after the appearance of droids and half-animal opponents, you quickly realize this action-adventure doesn't take itself too seriously.
Did you see that? We're gonna be legends.
So what did make our top 5? Here's a reminder before we reveal our number 1. At number 5, Sudeki is a magical RPG for the Xbox. It earns its place for originality and good looks. Big Brother isn't watching you, but your PS2 is. Making it to number 4 on the strength of its innovation is the iToy from Sony. The sequels kick in at number 3 with Bungie's crowd-pleasing Halo 2. And not quite sneaking into the number 1 spot, Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater is Konami's 3rd and our number 2. But the hands-down number 1 game of E3 2003 left them all behind. And the winner is...
Well, absolutely no competition. Half-Life 2. It is mind-blowing.
For the duration of E3, gamers happily endured long queues to watch a 20-minute gameplay demo.
Half-Life is like the best game ever on the PC, and this is the sequel to it, and they're doing stuff with PC games that no one else is doing.
Valve has been working on a Half-Life sequel since completing the original game. But until this year's E3, they've been tight-lipped about their new FPS.
It's been quite a challenge to keep the game secret this long. Part of it has been that we do it all ourselves. We're using our own engine, we're using our own funding. You know, we want to get people's feedback, so it's great that we finally get to show it. In Half-Life 2, you're on Earth, you're Gordon Freeman again, and there's some new characters, such as Alex, who is the daughter of two of the scientists at the original Black Mesa incident. There are some familiar bad guys. You'll see zombies and you'll see head crabs, and there'll be a bunch of new people that you face. One of the creatures that people seem to respond to really well when we're showing here at E3 are the Hydras.
It takes things a huge step forward. You've got a proper real world with real world physics.
To create those real-world physics, Valve has ditched the previous game's engine and designed the new Source engine from scratch.
We have an integrated materials and physics system. This gives us the ability to create gameplay that just hasn't been possible in PC games before. So we build the world out of these materials. So wood looks like wood, it sounds like wood. If you scrape something across it, it behaves like wood. If you shoot it, it fractures like wood. And you know, that gives us a basis for building a lot of gameplay.
Half-Life 2 is released on the 30th of September. This has been the Edge E3 experience at E303. Next year's show is set for the week beginning the 10th of May in LA. We'll see you then.